Welcome back to our channel. Today, we're taking you to Crestwood Heights, a city known for its beautiful homes, quiet streets, and high-profile residents. It's the kind of place where nothing ever seems to go wrong. But over the course of a few weeks, two shocking and completely unrelated incidents shattered that illusion, forcing the community to confront the fragile line between a normal day and life-altering chaos. These two stories, unfolding on opposite sides of town, revealed just how little we know about the battles our neighbors are fighting, both in public and behind closed doors. Let's start with the first case, a story that proves how a 10-second conflict can spiral into a national headline. Our story begins with Marcus "The Wall" Bennett. Football fans will remember him as a legendary NFL defensive star, famous for his on-field aggression and unstoppable power. But since retiring 2 years ago, Marcus had embraced a completely different life. He was known around Crestwood Heights as a quiet, private family man, a gentle giant who was the exact opposite of his ferocious football persona. He was calm, level-headed, and always tried to avoid the spotlight. But one Saturday evening, the spotlight found him. Marcus was pulling into the crowded parking lot of a popular shopping center. It was the weekend rush, and finding a spot was a challenge. Finally, he saw an empty one and began to turn. At that exact moment, another car sped toward the same spot from the opposite direction. The driver, a local contractor named Dylan Hart, who had a reputation for being hot-tempered, slammed on his brakes, his tires screeching on the asphalt. He threw his truck door open and jumped out, his face already red with anger. According to multiple witnesses, Dylan immediately started shouting at Marcus, yelling accusations and profanities, claiming Marcus had deliberately stolen his spot. Marcus, trying to de-escalate the situation, remained in his car for a moment, then got out slowly. He calmly apologized, even though he felt he'd done nothing wrong, and offered to find another parking space. He just wanted to avoid a confrontation. But Dylan wasn't interested in a peaceful resolution. He was spoiling for a fight. He got in Marcus's face and shoved him hard. Marcus, surprised, stumbled back a step. He put his hands up, a universal sign for back off, and said, "Hey man, just calm down." But Dylan wasn't listening. He shoved Marcus again, harder this time. Then, Dylan swung a wild punch. For Marcus Bennett, a man who spent his entire career reacting to physical threats from 300-pound athletes, the response was pure instinct. He raised his arm, not to strike back, but to block the blow and push Dylan away. It wasn't a violent shove, but given Marcus's size and strength, it was more than enough. Dylan lost his balance and fell backward onto the pavement. By now, a crowd had gathered, phones were out, recording from every angle. The sound of shouting and car horns echoed through the parking lot, but nobody stepped in to help. The moment was pure chaos, captured on a dozen different screens. When the police arrived, they were met with a confusing scene. They took statements from Marcus, Dylan, and a few bystanders. But before the officers could even finish filing their report, the videos had already gone viral. Social media exploded. The clips were edited, taken out of context, and shared with sensational captions. The next morning, the headlines were brutal and unforgiving. Ex-NFL player arrested after vicious parking lot brawl. Marcus Bennett, the quiet retiree, was humiliated. His reputation as a calm, respected community member was destroyed overnight. He insisted to anyone who would listen that he had only acted in self-defense, that he was the one who had been attacked. For the first time since his celebrated retirement, Marcus found himself standing before a judge, pleading not guilty. His case sparked a nationwide debate about celebrity anger, and how a simple misunderstanding over something as trivial as a parking spot could escalate into a legal nightmare that threatened to ruin a man's life. Now, let's travel to the other side of Crestwood Heights, where a far darker and more heartbreaking story was unfolding at the very same time. This case didn't involve flashing cameras or public anger, but a quiet, desperate struggle happening behind the closed doors of a small apartment. A 29-year-old woman named Harper Lane was arrested after an incident involving her 3-year-old daughter. A neighbor heard frantic screams coming from Harper's apartment and, fearing the worst, made the heroic decision to break down the door. What they found was a scene of terror and confusion. Harper was in the midst of a severe mental breakdown, and in her delusional state, she had harmed her child. Miraculously, the little girl survived with only minor physical injuries, thanks to the neighbors' quick thinking. When police arrived, they found Harper trembling and disoriented, unable to explain what had happened. She kept whispering fragments of sentences, saying she wasn't herself, that she was hearing voices, and that she believed she was protecting her child from a terrible danger that only she could see. She wasn't a monster. She was a mother lost in a terrifying psychosis. She was taken into custody, not in anger, but in a state of deep, painful confusion. Later, medical evaluations confirmed what those close to Harper had feared. She had been suffering from a serious, untreated mental health condition. In the weeks leading up to the incident, her state had deteriorated rapidly, plunging her into a world of paranoia and terrifying delusions that she couldn't distinguish from reality. Her actions weren't driven by malice or a lack of love for her daughter. They were driven by a sickness that had completely taken control of her mind. When Harper Lane appeared in court, she was a shadow of her former self. She looked pale, lost, and incredibly vulnerable. The anger that often surrounds such cases was replaced by a heavy silence in the courtroom. Her attorney made a solemn announcement. Harper would be entering an insanity plea. He argued passionately that she wasn't a criminal who needed punishment, but a sick person who desperately needed medical treatment. The room was filled with a mix of emotions. Some people felt anger for what the child had endured. Others felt immense sympathy for a mother who had lost her grip on reality. But most people just felt a profound sense of heartbreak for the entire family. Harper's daughter was placed in the loving care of her grandmother, where she could recover in a safe and stable environment. Meanwhile, her mother began a long and difficult journey of psychological evaluation and treatment. At first, these two cases seemed to exist in different universes. One was a public brawl over a parking spot, fueled by ego and anger. The other was a private tragedy, born from a silent mental health crisis. A retired football star and a young, struggling mother. What could they possibly have in common? But, as Crestwood Heights grappled with the fallout from both, a powerful connection emerged. Both cases were a stark reminder of how quickly an ordinary life can be turned upside down. Marcus Bennett's story showed how one moment of provocation could transform a hometown hero into a public villain, demonstrating that even the most disciplined person can be pushed to their limit. His life was upended in the 10 seconds it took for a stranger's anger to boil over. Harper Lane's case, on the other hand, exposed the invisible battles that millions of people face every single day. It pulled back the curtain on the silent, devastating storms of mental illness that can gather unseen until they finally break, turning a loving home into a place of danger. The community learned a difficult but essential lesson. You never truly know what another person is carrying inside them. It could be stress from a job, financial pressure, a deep-seated fear, or the quiet, creeping confusion of a minding crisis. And one single moment, one wrong turn, one missed cry for help can change everything forever. As both cases moved through the legal system, something remarkable began to happen in Crestwood Heights. Marcus Bennett fought tirelessly in court to clear his name and reclaim his reputation. His case highlighting the complexities of self-defense in the age of social media. Harper Lane, instead of being sent to prison, was committed to a medical facility where she could receive the intensive treatment she so desperately needed. The community, shaken out of its comfortable suburban bubble, started having important conversations. The two tragedies sparked a push for better, more accessible mental health resources and the introduction of community-wide conflict resolution programs. In the end, Crestwood Heights didn't just witness two isolated tragedies, it grew from them, emerging as a community more aware, more compassionate, and more prepared to help its neighbors before they reach their breaking point. Thank you so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, please consider liking this video and subscribing to our channel for more content like this. Stay safe and be kind to one another.